So for Shiemi's kimono, you will need dark purple fabric, red rope, matching threads, iron-on transfers, pink fabric, sky blue fabric dye, interfacing, lace, yellow fabric, orange fabric marker, white fabric pins, sky blue fabric, and blue fabric marker. The measurements you'll need are half of the widest part of your torso, which is usually the bust or the hips, the length from your shoulder to where you want your top to end, half of your neck circumference, your desired collar width, and half of your circumference of your armhole. First, let's start drawing the pattern. Mark out half of the widest part of your torso. Next, mark out the length of your shoulder to the end of the top on both sides of the paper. Then connect the two lines you just made. Find the midpoint of the line you just made and the line across from it. Connect the two midpoints. At the top midpoint, mark half of your neck measurement on each side. On the right side of your pattern, mark your collar width. Connect the collar width mark with the neck mark closest to the left of your pattern with a line. Find the midpoint of the line you just drew and mark half an inch in towards the left. Draw a slightly curved line from the neck point to the collar width point. Make sure that the curved line hits the half-inch mark you just made. Mark half the circumference of your armhole from the shoulder line. Now, cut your pattern out. For the back pattern, repeat the steps up until you mark the neck part. From the midpoint and the two neck marks, mark 1 inch down. Connect the marks to make a rectangle. Round out the edges. Again, mark half the circumference of your armhole from the shoulder line, but on both sides. Now, cut out your pattern. Make sure to cut out the rounded edges of your neckline and not the rectangle. Connect the two midpoints. Now you're done with the torso. Let's start the bottom part of the kimono and the sleeves. The measurements you will need for the bottom part are your hip circumference and the length from your upper hip to the end of your kimono, plus 2 inches for your waistband. The measurements you will need for the sleeves are half your arm circumference, your desired sleeve length, and your desired sleeve width. But before we cut out the bottom and sleeves, cut out your collar. Multiply your collar width by 2 and mark that measurement out on your fabric. Unfortunately, we don't have any footage of the bottom and the sleeves being done, but after you finish the collar, mark out the measurements from the pictures earlier to make your bottom and sleeves. Next, you'll dye your fabric. We used Rit liquid dye in aquamarine and mixed it with water in a spray bottle and painted in layers, making sure each layer was dry before we started a new one. This takes a lot of patience to finish, so good luck. Now we'll make the obi. Cut a rectangle that is double your waist circumference plus a few inches long, and double the desired width of your obi. Fold your obi in half lengthwise, so that the right sides face each other, and sew up the red line. After you finish sewing, lay out your seam so that it is lying in the middle of one side of your obi, and iron it down. Then, sew up the sides of the obi, and wrap it around your waist to place your snaps for closure. Now, let's do the obi bow. Determine what you want the width and length of your bow to be, and follow the diagram to make your bow. Mark out your width along the length of your fabric and cut out your fabric and interfacing. You're going to make a sandwich with your 3 fabrics. Face your fabrics right sides together, then place your interfacing on the top of your fabric. Sew all the way around, leaving a space so that you can turn your bow inside out. In order to get Shiemi's bow shape, this is how you fold the fabric. I'll put the previous diagram to the side as reference. Fold the half length from the top of your fabric down. Then fold the mark where the end of the length of the bow is to create the obi. Here are the instructions again, but using the fabric. Once you are done folding, tack the 2 sides together with some stitches in order to keep the bow together. Use snaps to attach it to your obi and kimono top. Now, let's work on the half collar. Make a rectangle that is a little shorter than your collar and the same width as your collar. Draw it out on your fabric and cut it out. Put right sides together and sew along the raw edge. Pull your half collar inside out so that the right side is out. Align the seam in the middle of one side and iron it down, like the obi. Using your orange fabric marker, Draw straight lines across your half collar to finish. Now for the obi ribbon, you will need your waist circumference plus half of your waist circumference for the length, and a width that is a bit smaller than your obi. Draw your rectangle out on the fabric and cut it out. Just like the half collar, put right sides together and sew up the raw edge. Turn your obi ribbon inside out and align the seams so that it is in the middle of one side and iron down. Cut out a 1-inch paper cube as your template. Draw and fill in squares in a checkerboard pattern along the length of your obi ribbon. This will take a long time, so be patient. Now, let's sew the top of the kimono. Line the shoulder seams of the front and back pieces together, with right sides facing each other. Sew the shoulders together. Now, take your lining sleeve fabric and fold it in half and mark it. Do the same with your sleeve fabric. In order to attach your sleeves, you will have the right side of your top facing up and lay your sleeve on top so that the right sides are facing each other. Then you'll place the lining sleeve under the top so that the right side of the lining fabric is touching the wrong side of the top. Use your pattern you drafted earlier to mark where your armholes are by lining it up with the middle of the sleeves. Sew from the armhole marks you made. Now let's make the actual collar. Fold your collar in half lengthwise and sandwich your lace in between the two. Sew along the raw edge of the fabric. Turn your collar inside out and tack down the lace to your collar with small stitches. Fold your collar in half to find the middle and line it up with the middle of the back. Face right sides together and sew along the edge. I made a mistake in the video, so don't follow the video. Follow my instructions. The lace side should be facing the kimono when you're sewing, not you. Let's sew the sleeves. Bring back the sleeve fabric to show the lining sleeve. Line up the lining and sew starting from the armpit, down and across. Do not sew up the last side just yet. Repeat on the other side, and then sew the regular sleeves once done with the lining. When you have sewn the sleeves, snip the corners of the sleeves so that the edges can be turned out nicely. Arrange your kimono so that the lining sleeves are covering your regular sleeves. Peel back the lining to show the regular sleeves. Figure out how big you want the hole for your wrist to rest on to be. Divide it by 2 and subtract that number from the length of one side of your sleeve. That number is your subtracted number. Mark that number from the bottom of your regular sleeves. Sew just the regular sleeves for now. Once you have sewn the regular sleeves, peel back your lining sleeve from one end. Then put your hand through your regular sleeve hole and pull the rest of your costume through so that it rests inside your regular sleeve. This makes it possible for you to sew the lining sleeves. Mark your subtracted number on the lining sleeves and sew up that mark.
So, up to.
Mark your subtracted number on the lining sleeves and sew up to that mark. Once you are done, line up the side seams right sides facing and sew the sides up. Now hem the bottom of your top. To finish off the sleeves and join the lining and sleeve fabric together, fold down the sleeve fabric and lining fabric based on your seam allowance. Lay the folded lining edge on top of the folded sleeve edge so that it covers the raw edge. Blind stitch to keep together. Now let's work on the bottom of your kimono. From the top, fold down a small section. Then fold down about 1.5 inches down again to create a casing. Sew down your casing. Cut a strip of fabric that is about double your hip circumference and run it through your casing. finishing touches. Cut out the iron-on transfers and iron them down onto your costume. You can find these in the description box below. Died for justice.
What are you saying? This is totally unrelated to the video at all.
Well, it's gone.
Okay, that's
Because I died for justice. There goes the door. The police are here. They're trying to get me. You guys gotta listen. I died for justice. I was not any harm to humankind. There goes my dog.